Hello guys, welcome along. I hope you're doing well. We are back in the ATR 72-600 for today's video in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we're carrying on from where we left off in my previous video on our short Greek island hop from Mykonos to Santorini. And if you missed my last video, we discussed setting up the aircraft from cold and dark through to the takeoff and climb, and I'll put up a link for that at the end of this video. But for today, we're going to be discussing how we prepare the plane for our descent, approach and landing into Santorini. I'm just going to be working my way through all the onboard checklists just so we can see how the aircraft behaves since the ATR update last week. Okay, so let's brief our descent then and take a look on the charts. We're expecting runway 15 into Santorini on the Urbeg 1 Charlie approach. So as we approach Urbeg, we need to be at flight level 35 on an inbound course of 191 degrees before turning left onto a course of 155 degrees to Corax, where we need to be down at flight level 30 for our final approach. And we do have a published hold at Corax if we need to lose any altitude. So in a little bit more detail then, as we can see, it's a fairly straightforward approach down to Santorini. There's our hold at Corax if required. Then we're straight in on our inbound course of 155 degrees as discussed. And I'm just going to switch the engine management mode to cruise as we've reached our target altitude. That looks good. So back to the charts. There's our descent profile. There's the 3000 at Corax, and then as you can see, that's our minimum decision height of 1200 feet for the missed approach. So talking missed approach, if we go back to the top of the chart, we can brief that. Turn left as soon as able to track 315 degrees, intercept and follow Romeo 360 Santorini. At Delta 14, turn left and intercept Romeo 335 inbound to Corax. Enter the hold and climb to 3,500 feet. And that's our missed approach briefed. Okay, everything's looking good. We are about 8 miles from our top of descent, so now's a good time to hop outside and do a bit of sightseeing, I think. There we go. That is absolutely beautiful. I do love my custom camera angles as well. I do think it's also worth pointing out, guys, how good the sim looks on the Xbox, which is what you're seeing here. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, considering, you know, I haven't got any high-end PC rig or fancy GPU. It's literally the Xbox Series X, and it runs really smoothly. I mean, obviously there are some limitations, but if you're looking to sort of get into simming on a bit of a budget, then you can't really go wrong with the Xbox, I have to say. Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. So back inside the flight deck then, as you can see, we're just about to pass over our top of descent marker, so let's pop the plane into VNAV mode and start winding our altitude down to 3,500 feet, which was our target altitude at Urbeg. So we'll just wind that down. And it's just hopped out of VNAV, so let's hit VNAV again. There we go, that's VNAV path selected. Now obviously in the ATR we don't have auto throttle, so we just need to keep an eye on the speed and manage that so we don't overspeed. If we do overspeed, it will knock us out of our VNAV path mode. So I just need to reduce the thrust slightly. That looks good. And if we can keep to around the 240 knots mark, that's perfect. As you can see, we're descending quite nicely on profile. I'm going to try and descend all the way down using VNAV, but if I have to intervene using vertical speed mode, I will. Because it can be a bit patchy, the old VNAV, so we'll just see how we go. Right, everything is looking pretty good, so I think it's about time we can start working our way through our checklists as we did in the previous video. So let's start with our descent checklist and start by doing a recall. So that's recall checked. Landing elevation is 100 feet at Santorini, checked. FMS data checked. And minimum decision height of 1200 feet needs to go in here. So we'll just scroll that round to 1200 feet as per our charts. Come on. Oh God. Bloody fiddly this. 1200. 1200. There we go. Okay. So that's that checked. And arrival briefing checked. So that is our descent checklist complete. And whilst we're down here, let's do our approach checklist as well. So let's have a quick look overhead, check our lights and signs, so take off lights, seatbelt signs, they all look good. So Seat belts checked, landing light checked, altimeters. We need to set 1024 on the QNH for Santorini, so that's checked. And our cabin altitude, if we click this click spot here, it should take us through to the cabin pressure, which all looks fine, so that's checked. And that completes our approach checklist. Ooh, don't know what I've pressed there, so let's go back and put the menu back up. There we go, that's better. Okay, let's just head back and monitor our descent. I'm actually going to leave this to overspeed so you can see what happens. Basically, there we go, basically it hops us out of VNAV mode, so I just need to reduce my thrust again slightly, back down to our 240 knots, and then we can pop it back. You see it's popped into pitch hold now, so I need to hit VNAV. In fact, I think I'm going to hit vertical speed mode because we're a bit high on the profile, so I'll use vertical speed mode to bring us back on profile, and then we'll switch back to VNAV as we get a little bit closer to Santorini. And that rate of descent's looking much better now, so we'll just leave that in vertical speed mode for the time being. Okay, I can just see our airbag waypoint appearing at the top of the nav display now, so I'll just quick look at the FMS. Yeah, we want to be around about 170 knots, so we're a little bit fast, so I'm just going to start reducing our thrust slightly. I don't want to go too slow to start with, otherwise we'll never get there, but yeah, let's just start reducing the thrust slightly, just so we're prepared for when we arrive at airbag. Let's just tweak that rate of descent again. Okay, it's all looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm still pretty happy with our descent profile, so let's have another look-see outside and do a bit more sightseeing, shall we? Ooh, I like that. That looks really cool. Look at the way the sun is reflecting off the propeller blades. That looks really smart. As I said, it does look great on the Xbox, I have to say. A quick switcheroo of a few more camera angles as we pass through the clouds and watch the sunset. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, does it, guys? Okay, right, so we are now approaching Santorini. I can see it just in the distance over there, so let's concentrate on getting everything set for our final approach. We're now back on profile, so let's hit VNAV. There we go, VNAV path, and we'll let the plane descend itself. I'm much happy with where we are now, so that's cool. And let's also make sure we keep our heading bug aligned. Very important, so there we go. And that sound let us know that we're within 1,000 feet of our target altitude, so let's now drop our altitude down to 3,000 feet, which is our next waypoint at Corax. It was 3,000 feet at Corax, wasn't it? Let me just double check on the charts. We don't want any mistakes at this point, so yeah, there we go. It was 3,000 feet that we need to hit by Corax, that's fine. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with our LNAV path there. Looks like we're heading off the magenta line slightly, so not quite sure what's going on there. Might be one for the Asobo boffins to look at. Hopefully it'll correct itself when we arrive at Corax. Fingers crossed. Just have a little bit of a closer look. That is worrying me a little bit. It's sort of there's not that much crosswind. We are pointing in the completely wrong direction, but let's see what happens. And just a quick word on the ATR livery we are flying today. It's the Bravo Airspace Sky Express livery, and those guys do such a great job, especially with this sort of realism, the dirt and grime. Look at the windows there with all the dirt on it. I mean, planes aren't clean things, so I really like the effort they put in with all their textures and things like that. It looks, it's just another level of immersion really, and yeah, I'm really happy with the way this looks. Okay, so here's the moment of truth then. Is the plane actually... yes, the plane looks like it is actually turning in. Thank goodness for that. I was getting a bit worried, to be honest. So that does seem to be following the LNAV path, so I'm not quite sure what happened there, but all seems to be well. Good. Okay, so at this point I want to get a little bit ahead of the game. I'm going to bring up the before landing checklist myself. Normally these do come up automatically, but you can sort of scroll through them and bring them up as required. So let's give the crew a quick bong. So that's cabin crew advised. Landing gear, I'll just hold fire on that till we're on our short final. So that's fine, it's on screen and ready to go. That's just like a little reminder for us, so I don't mind being a little bit ahead. And let's just think about reducing our energy a little bit. There's only 2 stages of flaps in the ATR, so let's go to our first stage, flaps 15. Now we've got our minimum decision height set at 1200 feet, so what I'm going to do is wind our altitude back to about 1500 feet I think, which should be fine, and that'll be at the point where I disengage the autopilot and hand fly our landing. And I'm going to get my excuses in early. I'm using my brand new Boeing yoke today for the first time, or the first time in the ATR I should say. Yeah, I'm just going to get that out there first, just in case. Okay, so it looks like we're still descending quite nicely on profile using the VNAV path, so we'll carry on with that as is. You can just about see the runway on the horizon now, so we haven't got too much further to go. And again, let's keep the heading bug aligned. There we go. Okay, that's 1,000 to go until we're at our 1,500 feet. So now's a good time to go geared down. So that's gear down 3 green, so check. Okay, so that's just given us a bit of an overspeed warning, so we'll just keep reducing the thrust, and let's go to our second and final stage of flaps 30. So flaps checked, power management to takeoff checked, and external lights on and checked, and that is our before landing checklist complete. Okay, that is us pretty much configured for our landing then. All I need to do now is wait for the altitude to get down to around about 1,500 feet, where I will disengage the autopilot and hand fly the landing using my new yoke. How exciting! Right, so we're just about approaching 1500 feet then, so it's about time to start thinking about turning off the autopilot. So autopilot disengaged, and my controls. And I'm probably going to go quite quiet now as I try and figure out this yoke. It is actually feeling, at this point, very smooth. I did install the additional spring that comes with it, because apparently that makes it a little bit more realistic. And I haven't got anything in the way of any sort of serious crosswinds or anything like that, so it might be a slightly different kettle of fish if I had some stronger crosswinds. But no, at the moment it's feeling pretty good, to be honest.
Approaching minimum.
Okay, so we're now approaching our 1200 feet minimum decision height. And I'm now going to add in our missed approach altitude of 3,500 feet. And I'm just going to keep tweaking the trim just to keep us on profile.
Minimum.
Continue. 2 whites on the pappies, so that's good. We've got 3 whites on the pappies at the moment. I'm not too concerned about that. Might need to go nose down a touch, but I'm not even sure if the pappies are correctly configured for an ATR. But it's looking pretty good, to be honest. Just keep trimming to get us down onto profile a bit better. We're still showing 3 whites on the pappies, which means we're a touch high.
500.
What we need is 2 whites, 2 red. Come on, give me 2. There we go, 2 whites.
200.
Yeah, I've just got a little bit of a drift on there, so I just need to correct that.
100. 50. 40.
Look into the end of the runway. Idle throttles. Flare.
10.
And reversers. Just need to head back to the centre line a touch. Okay, we are down, and welcome to Santorini, guys. And as a first effort with my yoke, I will take that. Not too bad at all. Right, so we'll vacate at the next right turn, and then we'll just go through the shutdown procedure. But what are my thoughts then on the ATR update? I would say much more usable. Still had a bit of a wobble on the way in using LNAV. Hopefully that can get sorted out, but all in all, yeah, much better. VNAV's always a little bit hit and miss, but that seemed to be working pretty well for us. So yeah, all in all, a much better experience. Okay, so we'll just make this right turn onto the taxiway, and then we'll go through the after landing checklist and begin shutting down a few of the systems within the aircraft. Okay, so after landing checklist then, let's take a look at that. Radar to standby, flight controls locked, flaps retracted, landing lights off, strobes off, taxi lights on, probes and window heats off, and we'll also switch off the oxygen supply for the cabin. And TRU off and covered, and then after 2 minutes we can switch engine 1's condition lever to feather, and then we can switch it off. So what I'm going to do now is, just while we're taxiing, I'm going to speed up the time until we arrive on our stand, and then we'll complete the shutdown procedure. Now, for some strange reason, our ground crew are trying to get us to park up behind this Ryanair, so not quite sure what that's all about, but we'll go with it anyway. Classic Microsoft Flight Simulator. And just gently dabbing the brakes then, and we'll slowly bring her to a stop, and parking brakes set. And engine 1's condition lever to feather, and that completes our after landing checklist. And to our parking checklist then, parking brakes set, and taxi lights off, beacon off, and logo light off, and we can switch the seatbelt signs off as well. Engine 2 condition lever to feather, and we can switch engine 1 off now. Transponder set to standby. Over to the EFB then, and let's pop some ground power on, cargo doors, main doors, tail prop, and some chocks. And let's switch the ground power on, as that's now available. Okay, that is our parking checklist complete. We just need to finish shutting down engine 2, so let's switch that to off. And that concludes today's video in the ATR 72-600. I hope you enjoyed the flight, learnt something new. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. And thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.